Unfolded video podcast. Women just like you and I. Experiences of trauma, adversity, and life-altering obstacles. Their stories, their success, and their words. Unscripted, unedited, live, real and raw. Every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on Her Laundry Unfolded, and I'm your host, Wendy Babcock. Don't forget your coffee. Good morning. Welcome to Her Laundry Unfolded. I'm Wendy Babcock, and this morning I'm here with a friend of mine, Amy Kaiser. Welcome, Amy.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
I just almost forgot my coffee, so I put that aside here.
I have water.
It works too. Actually, that's probably a lot better for you than the coffee I'm drinking. So,
I had my coffee this morning.
Awesome. Love it. So we're just going to jump right in. I'll have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, well, do you want professional, personal, or both background?
Both. Whatever you're comfortable sharing. We just like to keep it real here. So whatever comes up, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm Amy Kaiser. I'm a self-proclaimed pelvis wellness warrior for work. My profession, also my passion, which is wonderful when that happens together, right?
Yes.
I own Soul Healing Bodywork and Wellness Center in Weston, Wisconsin. I offer various massage modalities, a few different energy modalities, infrared sauna, essential oils. I'm also a medium. I'm also an intuitive, so I offer readings. I just want to help support people on all levels of healing. And my background, I was a CNA for 11 years and then a nurse for 8 years. And I still have a nurse's license, but I have not worked on the floor as a nurse in about just over 5 years. I transitioned, it says in my bio, I kind of transitioned from, the medical field to more holistic approach because I wanted to help people heal. And, the 95% of my CNA and all of my nursing career was in geriatrics. So nursing homes, assisted livings. And so I definitely have a soft spot for that population. But, basically my soul was dying. I couldn't do it anymore. And then as I was kind of evolving and learning about energy and learning more about the body-mind connection, and then the spiritual aspect of it, for my own journey, I just realized I need to do something that's actually going to help people. So that's kind of like a quick professional. And then personally, I'm divorced. I have been divorced for about 5 years, and I have 3 kids. Andrew is 14, Rebecca is 13, and Matthew is 10, and they're amazing human beings.
For some reason, in my head, the kids are so much younger.
Yeah, well, I think when we first met probably like 3 years ago. So they're quite a bit younger. Lots of hormones going on in the house right now. So that's interesting and fun. And we're all learning a lot. So that's good. And I also have a podcast called Women's Pelvis Wellness.
And it's doing so good. I'm so excited for you because when did you start that? It wasn't really that long ago, was it?
August 4th.
And you're already in the top 100 on iTunes.
I was in the top 100 like 36 hours.
Oh my gosh. See, that's amazing to me. Amazing. I don't know how you did it, but that's so cool. That says a lot.
Well, I have a decent sized following as far as, local people who really, when you're talking about the things that I talk about and everything having to do with pelvic health, whether it's incontinence or infant death or, sexual assault or, there's anything having to do with women's pelvic health, policy changes around women's health care. It's the whole gamut. And people need to have these discussions. They're yearning to have these discussions, but they don't know where to go because most of the time this is like, embarrassing and shameful, and we just are quiet about it. So, I think when people realize that they can listen to a podcast and know a handful of women that have experienced that same thing, if not themselves, then, it just offers a place of comfort.
And I have learned so much from you, just from when you've done like speaking at Polka Dot and other places, about how we hold trauma in that area, which I had no idea of. So, my daughter was sexually assaulted. So I just wonder what kind of trauma she's holding in her body still. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
remember learning that from you, thinking, wow, I never would have thought that.
right. Well, again, that mind-body connection, that energy piece. I mean, we are all energy. You can't deny it. The thing
Mhm.
is, when we deny it and we hold on to that emotional trauma, and the reason why it's housed there is the first three chakras of the body. The root is the base of your spine. The sacral is by your sacrum. And then the solar plexus is like just below your belly button. And um, that is where we house all of our humanness and all of our emotions. So when that energy of all that emotional trauma is housed in that space, it can develop into physical issues like GI upset, like fertility challenges. If you're a man, maybe with some prostate issues, maybe some erectile dysfunction. It causes physical problems. It does. So I'm really just kind of also bringing more awareness to the fact that we have to address that energy piece.
Yes. And something interesting you said too, as far as like GI upset, is my daughter, and I just never really connected these two. We thought it was a stress reaction, but she does suffer from GI. Like she'll just randomly get like super nauseous and then dry heave, and I always thought, okay, it's anxiety of some sort, but it only happened after her assault. So I bet you that's tied in. So maybe I should send her your way because
Yeah.
I think you could probably help her a lot with that.
Yeah, I would love to
You
help.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the challenges that you've faced, either personal or, trying to get your business up and going. Like, what are some of the challenges that you've faced? Obviously, being a single mother makes it extra hard doing things kind
Yeah.
of on your own. And
Yeah. Well, as far as starting my business, I tell people that at the time, in my mindset, looking back now, I was just like too stupid to be afraid. Now, looking back with the wisdom that I have now, looking back, I wasn't stupid. I was just naive. And
okay.
I was naive enough to not be afraid. I was just going to jump into it head first, and just expected that it was going to be amazing. It took a lot longer for me to build my clientele than I thought it would. During massage therapy school. So I had actually been a Reiki practitioner for 2 years before I went to massage therapy school. Generally,
Oh,
it's the other
wow.
way around, but I did that way. And so I already had a couple, years of that under my belt, and I just kind of um, dove into the massage therapy thing. And in school, they told us you need to give yourself at least a good solid 2 to 3 years to build up a clientele to where you're actually going to be busy every single day that you're open. So if you
Wow.
think about that, I mean, that's a huge commitment, because right off the bat that this is not going to be like, ooh, a year and a half, and I'm going to be, swimming in the bucks. You can be, certainly, but, the area, what you're charging, the competition, all that stuff.
Right.
So I just knew that I did not want to do nursing anymore. And at the time, quite honestly, I also knew that I was going to leave my ex, and I needed to be self-sufficient because I was a stay-at-home mom for 3 solid years. And then for 3 years after that, I just worked very part-time. So I knew that I wanted to have my own money, and that I needed a job where I could have flexibility for the kids, to help them through this process. So I never even considered working for anyone. I happened to mention it to my hairstylist. She went and talked to her boss. So I had a room to rent for really cheap before I even left school. So, I ended up getting supplies. Really, things just showed up,
That's
they
cool.
do. Um, and then I don't know, it was just, I think, a lot of it's just mindset, that's kind of where it all is.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm learning more about, again, all the things that can affect us in blood memory, past lives, inherited crap. And, there's a lot of things that I did overcome. I just didn't realize that I was overcoming them at the time.
Right. And I think part of that mindset too, I think, is you basically said, this has to work. It's like, there's no other choice. Like, this has to work for me. And I think part of your brain clicks in and is like, okay, things are going to show up for you. And as long as you paid attention, which you did, then it just starts to fall in line. And I think having an expectation of this has to work, this is going to work, I need this to work, to me, that makes all of the difference.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, looking back, I never thought that I never thought that I wouldn't make it.
Right.
I mean, there have obviously been times where I was like, man, this is really slow. I need to bring in more income. I need to bring more people. Like, there are obviously times in the business where that happened, but I never once have ever thought of cashing it in. Even now this year, when it's been like, whoa, deader than dead, I've just pivoted, and I have taken the opportunity to really dive deep into myself and heal myself more. Therefore, being able to offer, a much more complete healing to the people who come to work with me.
I bet. And I wasn't even thinking about this as we got into this with your business, how COVID has changed what you can do. Because I can't imagine the regulations there if you were just completely shut down. Have you been able to work at all, like with people in person?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. We were shut down for 6 weeks. But then when the Wisconsin, because I don't know, I'm assuming this is like out of Wisconsin, but the Wisconsin governor, when he handed down the second one, that was eventually overturned. But anyway, in that one, massage therapists were listed as essential workers. Okay. So the second that I saw that order come down, I was back to work, because I have 3 kids, people. I need to bring in income. So I didn't listen to the naysayers, and I just plugged forward, and I just counted that people, the people who needed to come in would, and they did. And of course, being able to pivot. I mean, energy healing can be done online, right. Doing a lot of teaching now and creating programs to help people heal, via online stuff. Because obviously I can't do, the visceral manipulation.
Right.
But it does start in the energy anyway. I mean, I really do feel, as the most Indigenous healers feel, that if it can be healed in the emotional and energetic realm, it will be healed in the physical realm, because that's the law of the universe. It just has to work that way.
Right. And I think about the opportunities this has opened up for people that maybe they hadn't thought about doing prior. Like, obviously you're busy with your work. I'm sure you were busy anyways. So you probably wouldn't have thought, okay, I need to add all these other things on that I can do, where this year it's slowed down. And now you're helping people in a different way to heal kind of from, I mean, you're already healing people from the inside out. And now you're going even deeper, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I love working on people. I love the physical, hands-on, meeting people, face-to-face contact. But I really love teaching and speaking women, speaking and teaching women how to heal themselves, because my goal is that you don't have to come back to me anymore. I want you to, be healed and, come to me for a tune-up every now and then. But to have those tools, because when you have access to that, to that healing, those healing methods every day.
Yes.
Well, then you're going to get more healing, right?
Right. And it's good that you teach people how to kind of help themselves, instead of just, well, you're going to come back, once a week for the rest of your life and never be fully healed. You're actually giving them the tools to do exactly what they need to do for themselves. So, I mean,
right.
That's awesome.
And the other thing I do too is, a huge aspect of my therapy is visceral manipulation, which must be hands-on. Mm-hmm. So what I have been doing is, everyone that I'm working with, when they, join up with me, I find them someone there. So the thing is, I mean, it's not it's not really super popular. So sometimes people may have to drive a couple of hours, but that's not always the case. So I will find people in their area, for the physical hands-on portion if they're comfortable going in.
Right. Now, is that the Mercier therapy that you're doing? Is that what you're referring to? Because you're like the only one in Wisconsin, right, that's licensed to do that?
Well, actually, I am no longer following that protocol.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Mercier therapy, I did take the training for Mercier therapy, and it's a great program. Dr. Mercier is really a genius when it comes to fertility, but it wasn't, I just wanted to create something that was more my style. So I'm using visceral manipulation. She did not create visceral manipulation. She created a protocol involving it. So as a massage therapist, visceral manipulation is already something that falls under my scope of practice.
Right.
So I did learn some of the techniques from her. So then with that, I also incorporate Reiki. I incorporate doTERRA essential oils. You can use any oils that you're comfortable using. That's totally fine. And then the intuitive guidance if the client is open to that.
Right. And I always knew you were intuitive. So I can't imagine, like, when you were working in the hospital, how that all had to play in, because you're very, you're very passionate. Like, you're very emotional like me. And so I can see why you would have to leave that field and go into doing your own thing the way you're doing it, because when you feel as deep as you do, and especially the energy of the people around you, and you're working with people that are, going to be crossing over soon, I don't even know how you were in it for as long as you were.
Well, actually, that's interesting because when I first started doing Reiki, I worked a lot on my residents because I worked the night shift and I could get away with it.
Right.
Because quite honestly, in a nursing home, well, anything, you can't do anything without a prescription. Right. Well, who's going to give you a prescription for energy healing? Right. Because it's basically, I'm basically just praying over the person.
Right.
So, I actually, the thing is, it's really beautiful. When you see a child take a first breath, or when you see anyone take a last breath, like, you can't not believe in some kind of higher power in that moment. And so Reiki, I would do Reiki on my residents who were on hospice. So they were actively dying. They were in a lot of pain. And, I'm sorry, but medications just don't handle it all. Medications can make you incapable of expressing that you're in pain.
Right.
But, and then you can only give so much. And then if it doesn't work, then what?
Right. And how awful.
Yeah. So, I did a lot of energy healing and just rubbing them down with lotion. That was even before I was a massage therapist, but they weren't getting touched. Like, you need touch, you need hugs, you need kisses, you need lotion on your skin.
Yes.
So I just basically took that time. I mean, even just 15 minutes to send Reiki into them, and then just lightly kind of massage their legs or, whatever I could. Right. And many times they were immediately relaxed. And there were several times that, within an hour they had passed. Wow. And that's the thing is, I feel like what a beautiful thing to be able to help someone cross over, because their bodies were in so much pain and so bound up and so anxiety ridden, like they couldn't let go. And so when you help them be calm and peaceful and help them pass, I don't know. I mean, I can't find anything negative about that,
Right. No, I hear you. Because, my mom passed, here at home in February, and surrounded by basically all the women in our family came together. Her sisters drove here, and my sister and I were here, and my kids and stuff. And I think by the time, if she had had somebody like you, she might have actually passed a little sooner, because I think she was really, really fighting it, because my mom was filled with anxiety and fear most of her life. And of course she had some morphine to kind of help calm her, but her issue was COPD. So my fear is, was she panicking because she wasn't getting breaths, because there was hardly anything moving through her lungs. And I think she would have gone sooner had she had maybe somebody there to kind of guide that and relax her a little bit,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's something to be said about witnessing that last breath
Yeah.
and knowing they finally kind of, okay, let go. Because we were encouraging her, of course, to let go.
Yeah.
And so when she did it, as sad as we are, knowing that she wasn't having that struggle, fear, anxiety anymore,
Right.
it's sad but beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
and the thing is, death is not the end. It's just a transition. And, I can say that easily because I haven't had a lot of tragedy in my life, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But I do know that it is just a transition. So
Right.
even though I miss my grandparents terribly, I still talk to them. You can still talk to them.
Yep.
I mean, and that's the thing is it's people will say, I know you can still talk to them. But I mean, you can literally have a conversation as if they're sitting across from you. But you've got to be open to the ability that that's not like, open yourself to the fiery depths of hell.
Right.
There are a lot of people that shy away from it, because they think that it's not of God. And like, who else could it be from?
I agree.
And it's healing. So, yeah.
Very much. Well, obviously, my best friend's a medium. So, I mean, I'm totally open to it. And I guess it makes sense. I've never heard you openly say you were a medium, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Being that you're so intuitive, it makes sense, so that was that's new for me, but that's pretty cool.
I see people all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And,
cool.
I mean, at first it's like chaotic, but when you learn to control it, then it's just, it's just a normal day.
Yeah. And that's kind of what Diane says too, that sometimes, you got a lot of people popping in and you're like, okay, knock it off.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, and you work with your guides and you set clear boundaries with spirit, just as you set clear boundaries with people, there. So, I mean, people don't come until I open myself up. There certainly have been moments when it was something incredibly pressing. So they came through, and that it ended up being fine anyway. So
wow, that's cool though. I love it. It makes sense from what I've known of you and all the different things that you've done. That makes total sense.
Well, and I mean, honestly, it was always something because, okay, let's face it, I live in central Wisconsin. Not exactly the most open-minded to like all these things. So I mean, it's not something that I advertise. I'll put like an oracle card reading, but it's not something I advertise. I really honestly just this year, as I'm working on myself and just really focusing on embodying me. I mean, I was a people pleaser. I was even just thinking the other day about how I just let people do shitty things to me when I was younger, and not even say anything, knowing it was wrong and just thinking like that would never happen now, and so, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought of what we were originally talking about. But yeah.
That's cool. But yeah, it makes sense. And Diane's experienced a lot of that too, with the people pleasing is a huge trait, I think, in intuitives and empaths and mediums and stuff. Huge people pleasers.
I think like you can almost feel or see their potential.
Right.
And that if they could just get this one little piece, that would click. But this is the deal. You're not the one responsible for them finding the little piece.
Right.
Plant the seed and walk away.
And that is hard for people. I know I'm that way too. That is really hard.
Yeah.
So let's talk about obviously where your business has gone because you're, successful. You've pivoted this year. I mean, you have so many cool things that you incorporate into your business.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your successes. What are some things that you're able to celebrate?
Sure. Yeah. So, well, when I started the business, it was massage and energy healing. Since then, I've taken fascial training. I've taken the visceral manipulation. So I have been working in the last 2.5 years. I've been working with people who have the pelvic health struggles. That's really when my attention shifted to focusing on pelvic health was after I took the Mercier therapy training. Right. And she uses it primarily for infertility, but we, it's anyone who has a pelvis.
Right.
No, but really it's really good for women who have, painful periods, sexual trauma, PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, C-section recovery. It can certainly be done on men, prostate issues. This is the thing. We never rehab that area after surgeries, ever. We don't touch it in a normal massage in North America. It's just not taught. I do. But if you walk into most massage places and say, please do my abdomen, they're, are probably going to look at you a little funny, and it's just missed. It's missed a lot. And what I say is, when this area of your body is touched, who is touching it and what do they want?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I don't want anything from you. I want something for you. And there's a huge difference in there, because when you think about who touches that area and what the purpose is of that touch, how much of it is love and healing for you?
Right.
Wow.
I never really thought about that. I've had a lot of surgeries. So I've had full hysterectomy. Both my ovaries have been removed. For my mastectomy, we did a deep flap, which means that I'm cut from hip to hip. And that tissue was brought together after they took out like a football size, and sometimes just gets like really tight.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of numb at the same time.
Right.
So it's always a place that's, kind of not uncomfortable. I don't know how to put it, but
yeah,
I've never thought about having that kind of work on. I think that might actually help. Maybe I need to make a trip up to see you.
It would help. The fascial work would help tremendously. So if you don't know what fascia is, it's a layer between the skin and the muscle. Okay. It's also between each muscle layer and around each organ. And it should be free flowing through those structures. So when the fascia is stuck to your skin, that's when you get cellulite. Cellulite is not fat. Okay. You're a beautiful, gorgeous being, whether you have cellulite or not. It doesn't mean that you're fat. It means you have fascial adhesions. When the fascia is stuck to your muscle, that's when you get the knots and all of the tightness. So we need to work on that. But anyways, yeah. So the fascial work, and then really focusing on the pelvic health. And then this year, another polka dot introduced me to the podcasting world. And a little confession, I had never listened to a podcast in my life before I started my own.
Wow.
And then having to pivot, of course, to doing more things online and virtually, because people, aren't coming in and couldn't come in, for a while. And I understand all of that. And it's really kind of launched me into another thing, because it's like, yeah, I can do this. Like I can do some things that maybe I'm not just a workhorse. I actually have a brain that I could teach people, which is interesting because I have a bachelor's degree in high school English education.
Oh, wow. So you're the perfect person to teach what you do.
Yeah. So, and that's really my passion, because I love just seeing their face light up when they get it. Or the thing that I like is that when people realize how women are just not treated in healthcare. And then when you there is an alternative, you don't just have to take meds or do surgeries. There are other things that you can do, or combinations of things that you can do. Right. So yeah, I kind of started out just doing massage therapy and energy healing, moved into the pelvic health stuff, and now kind of into the speaking, teaching stuff. I'm still doing all of it, but
when you announced that you were doing a podcast, to me, it made so much sense, because when I think of you, I think about the stuff you've taught me.
Yeah.
When you've done speaking, I always learn something new. So, you teach through, some speakers motivate and inspire, which you do as well. But to me, you're more of a teacher, so that made sense. I'm like, oh my God, her having a podcast is brilliant, because how many women are going to hear this and learn a lot of the tips that I've learned from you and the different things that are possible. So it made sense. And I think that's awesome that how quickly you just skyrocketed.
Yeah. Well, and I have been learning a ton through this process too, because, that's what I tell people all the time. Like, that's why collaboration is so great, because, you're going to learn things you just never knew. And if you are working with a doctor who's not willing to collaborate, then you need to get the F out, because you can't know everything. You can't do everything.
Right.
One really amazing thing about regarding the podcast is that the team who does all my podcast editing is a man and a woman. Mm-hmm. And the man sent me an email last week thanking me because he is in oh shucks. Well, whatever. I can't remember him. The Philippines. He lives in the Philippines. Oh, wow. Cool. And he said that editing my podcast has taught him so much about women. Oh, wow. And he's really grateful for that because he's getting married next year. And he said, I really think that this is going to help me be a better husband. And I'm like, that is so amazing.
What a testimony to what you do. I mean, you know, and that wife's going to be very happy for you.
Yeah. So I'm thankful for that. And then in the business too, I've helped 4 couples have babies. So that's been amazing.
I love those stories when you share them because your passion comes out your eyes.
Yeah.
And I love it.
I know. I just got a Christmas card. Oh. And I just looked at it and I'm like, I helped them make that little guy. Like, he's just so precious. And I'm so thankful that I got to be a small part of that. I helped an 85-year-old woman not pee her pants anymore so she could actually go out to lunch with her friends.
Wow.
And this is another thing that I tell women all the time. They're always shocked. The inability to hold your urine is not a natural progression of age. It is not. We don't just have to accept that we're going to pee our pants, ladies. There are things that can be done.
I mean, I don't have to squeeze my knees together when I'm going to sneeze or laugh.
Right.
I have to do that. I really do need to come see you.
Yeah. I need to see me.
Right. So this, I mean, I was just thinking back to the man from the Philippines and stuff. So with what you do you help increase libido? Does that naturally kind of occur when you work on women?
Well, it certainly can, because, you have to remember that a huge aspect, especially of the physical, the visceral manipulation part of it, is that we want to be moving those organs and structures around. So it's not like it's not, a Swedish relaxing massage, just so you know that. Right. I mean, this is some deep work. It's uncomfortable. But what we're doing is we are getting organ structures back into alignment. We are going to flush the area with fresh new blood, which is huge. So, I mean, if you have proper blood flow to an organ, it's obviously going to function better, right?
Right.
So, I mean, if it has, definitely can help libido. If you have your ovaries still, we can definitely stimulate those. Wow. I actually had a woman come to me and just for a regular massage, but her daughter was struggling with some fertility issues. And since I had her on the table and she knew what I did, I said, do you want me to just show you a little bit of it so that you can let her know how it feels? And she said, sure.
Wow.
And no, she was, like kind of in premenopause, but I didn't know that. Like I didn't ask her any of those questions because she wasn't there for that purpose.
Right.
I literally worked on her for maybe 5 to 7 minutes. And she said that she went on vacation the following week and she got her period, and she hadn't had her period for 8 months.
Oh my gosh.
So she was like, not ideal timing, Amy. I'm like, sorry.
But I mean, around and working.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just that little bit of time. I mean, organs need to be stimulated. They need to be awakened, and also emotions can be energetically stuck in certain organs. So as we physically work on those, the emotions are also released too.
Right. And I think that is where most women need a lot of help there, from prior marriages or assaults or, bad experiences. And if that gets stuck there, and I wonder how surgeries, like, of course, I'm surgically menopausal. So I always wonder about like, because I have to take basically an antidepressant to help stop my hot flashes. Without it, it's like every half an hour I'm having like a dripping major hot flash where I was nauseous and just felt blah.
Have you ever talked to like a naturopath or a homeopath about the herbs you can take?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I'll share some things with you then.
Yeah. 'Cause of course, those medications, it works great. I have no more hot flashes, but unless I'm really anxious, then something might come on. But there's side effects to those.
Right.
And so I always wondered about that, so
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Hot flashes, some really good things for hot flashes. And of course, as always, talk to someone who knows about this stuff. Okay. I mean, I don't know dosages. But evening primrose,
Mm-hmm.
ashwagandha, those are really good herbs. Just those two are there's several, but off the top of my head, those two.
I always heard black cohosh because I was thinking that for a bit too,
That's
and but just by itself, it really wasn't doing much for me. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting to know. I'd be curious to see, if something could kind of help in that area. But yeah, I think maybe I needed to schedule a visit with you anyways for myself.
Well, the other thing too is that surgery is a trauma.
Right.
Okay. So, and you also think you are completely open and vulnerable, literally and figuratively in that position. So take myself as an example. All three of my kids were C-sections.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally excised from my center, and had my babies removed that way.
Right.
So I have to now think about the energy of everyone in that room. True. And even though that surgery, whether it was needed or not, is debatable, okay. But that's how it ended up. So we're all good. Everybody's here. We're fine. I probably pee my pants a little bit, but whatever. But yeah, so even though those surgeries were necessary, it's still a trauma to the body, energetically.
Yeah.
And obviously physically. So scar tissue does an amazing job of mending back together the body because that's what it's supposed to do, right? But it glues structures together if they're around it. So even though my bladder was not cut during my C-sections, the bladder and the uterus are touching. So now my bladder is adhered to my uterus from that scar tissue.
Wow.
So that'll happen with any surgery because that's just what scar tissue does. However, if you have rehabilitation after those surgeries, then hopefully at the very least it reduces the rigidity of the scar tissue. Mm-hmm. And, makes it more pliable so that the organs are more movable.
Right. Interestingly, I worked for a physical therapist for probably 6 months or so. And she brought to my attention too, she's like, any other surgery, knee surgery, shoulder surgery, but everything requires rehabilitation. But they don't send women after they've had babies. They don't C-sections, natural childbirth. She's like, those are very traumatizing to the body, even if it's natural birth. She's like, absolutely. Women benefit so much from having physical therapy after giving birth. So everything you're saying makes complete sense, lines up perfectly what she talked about.
Yeah.
And she's like, when she has new moms come in, she says, you need to take that time for yourself because it really will help you in the long run.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. Definitely. So we need more people like you and her who are standing up and saying, ladies, Yeah.
The postpartum care in this country, by and large, get mad at me if you want to, is not good.
No, it's not.
6 weeks off is a joke. 3 months off is a joke. 6 weeks, if you have a quote unquote normal vaginal birth, you don't see your doctor for 6 weeks. Do you know the complications that can happen? Wow. It's just crazy. If you look at like midwifery, being a midwife, being a doula, they take great postpartum care, and check in frequently, and it's just like, see you later. Like you just had a baby. I remember leaving the hospital with my son thinking, I can't, like my first one thinking, I can't believe they're actually letting me leave.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the hell I'm doing.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, I mean, you're a friggin' basket case. You have no
Right.
one around you to support you, and you have to take care of this other human who doesn't know how to do life.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I mean, the childbirth education is by and large just not.
Yeah,
And
no.
we need to improve a lot.
I agree, because I remember that feeling when I was leaving the hospital, like having almost an anxiety attack, like,
Yeah.
oh my God, now what? All the way home, I'm like, what if I don't know what I'm doing? And it's not just taking care of the baby. You just gave birth, and they really don't give you that many directions to take care of your own body. You know,
Right.
here's some pads. Call
Yeah.
up anything is unusual. Well, what's unusual?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
know? And so I 100% agree. I mean, even though my doctors were, they did fantastic with both of my girls, it's that aftercare. You know a little bit more the second time, but I had completely different experiences with both births with my girls. You know, the after. I mean, I had to use a little bottle to squirt when I peed after, and that didn't happen the first time. And they
Yeah.
didn't explain much about why I was having to use that. And yeah, it's just a
Yeah.
whole, yeah, it's a whole, we definitely need more education and stuff. And
Well, and it's honestly, like, I know that we've mentioned, you know, pregnancy and birth a lot,
yeah,
but it's with all women's health issues.
yeah,
You know, I mean, endometriosis, for example, you can have pain in any other place. You can have brain fog. You can have decreased libido. There are
mhm,
so many different things that
mhm,
make up endometriosis that it's often missed. And the thing that really just aggravates crap out of me is we know what the symptoms are of endo. So why does it still take a woman in this country on average like 7 to 10 years to be diagnosed? I don't understand that when you can literally Google the freaking symptoms.
yeah,
But yet we're telling these people, you know, girls,
mhm,
you know, my daughter just got her period for the first time this year.
mhm.
Serendipitously on the day that I launched my podcast.
Wow,
It was pelvis wellness. She got her period. So
wow,
that was lined up by the universe, I think.
yeah, I think so.
And I mean, girls in middle school who are just, they have these new bodies. They're just learning this new period thing. They're trying to figure out. And now they're getting cysts. They have, they're getting endo symptoms, and it's excruciating, and they have no help.
Yeah,
They have no help other than to put them on birth control. And who wants to put a 12, 13-year-old girl on birth control?
right. I agree.
You know?
You know, I always to go back to like stuff that I've experienced. And well, Janice Skidmore was on here just a couple weeks ago, and how she talked about she had no idea what the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer were. You
Right.
know, something that's crucial that has such mild symptoms.
Yeah.
You know, the first time I was having problems with a lot of pain. I was in my 20s. I'm trying to think if it was before Caitlin. It was after I had Jennifer, but before I had Katie. I was having excruciating, they called it Mittelschmerz, pain between ovulating and everything. And they wanted to send me to the 72-year-old man gynecologist. I'm like, I'm not going to some 72-year-old man. So then they sent me to another Madison to see this female gynecologist, and I explained all my symptoms to her. And I could tell she was not hearing me when I talked to her. Okay, well, we're just going to do, a laparoscopy, get in there, look, it's probably this or that. And I'm like, that's not anything of what I just told you was going on with me.
Right.
I sat down, I had like this shooting sharp pain through my rectum. I'm like, she didn't get it. So ironically, the man I didn't want to go and see, I was like, okay, I'm just going to go see him. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And he got out his, what were those books? Crap, we always made fun about his books. He had all these books, and he would sit down with me and my current husband when I was seeing him, or when I was married to my former husband, I should say. And he would go over all these diagrams and explain why it was happening to me. And he was a godsend. And I thought, no man's going to understand. So it's amazing where the knowledge can come in and the help.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
amazing.
that's the key thing.
Mm-hmm.
If they hear you,
yes.
if they hear you, you have to be heard. If you're not heard, you have to leave. You have to, that's the biggest thing.
Right.
I mean, that's amazing. That's awesome. And he probably figured that he had a lot of experience, you know?
And that's just as I didn't chalk up all the experience. I thought, well, he's 72. He's probably going to be pretty old school and all this, but
Yeah.
Being heard and advocating for yourself, that's, so people like you who are going to really hear people and understand, because people know if that physician's not listening. And I knew that.
Yeah.
And I never rescheduled with that other gynecologist because I knew she wasn't hearing me.
Yeah.
So yes, people like you are really a godsend.
I mean, yeah, I've heard some crazy stories, as you can imagine.
I bet.
I mean, I literally this year, like in 2020, a client told me that she ever since she's had her hysterectomy, she is she's just had a lot of dryness. And so it's painful when she has sex with her husband.
Right.
And her doctor literally told her to try Crisco. Like actually told her to try Crisco. And I said, was he joking? Like, did he say it in jest? Which, by the way, is a really shitty joke.
Yeah.
Like, she said, no, he seemed serious. I think he was serious. And I said, if he was honestly serious, I wonder how many people tried it.
I worked with a lady back when I was 17, 18. I was a waitress. And she said her and her husband would use lard. I'm like, what? What? It's just mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. And she was dead serious. Yeah. So sometimes the advice
people are the pleasure of man.
Yeah. I'm like, what?
That's so ridiculous. No, it's not his pleasure. I understand it's mutually beneficial.
Yes.
But yeah, I just some things. Yeah.
Things that make you go,
Very much.
So I want to talk about, put up your link there so that it's www.soulhealingbodyworkwellnesscenter.com. And then I'm going to say the whole thing / because of those who just listen and aren't watching. So sure. Soul Healing Bodywork Wellness Center, all one word, .com /request -a 20 -minute -discovery call. It's a mouthful, but you know what? So let's talk a little bit about what this is.
Yeah. So the 20-minute discovery call really basically ends up being a half hour every time, which is fine. So what I do is I'm sharing with you the specifics of what I do. And, you can share with me a little bit about what's going on. And I just kind of connect the dots of, how my work can help you. And then after you have booked that discovery call and we have the call, then I send you the PDF of my top 12 tips for better pelvic health.
Oh, cool.
So it's like a twofer.
Right. That's really cool. And so when I pulled the audio for just the podcast, I'm going to include this in the description. So people will be able to click on it. Because otherwise okay, what did she say?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then So I'll put that in the description as well, so they can get a hold of you. Because I think, ladies, if you're even remotely curious about, your pelvic health and how Amy can help you, this is perfect for them to be able to call and have that discovery call with you, ask some questions, write your questions down so you don't forget. I do this a lot. I'm going to ask this person about this. I get on a call with them. I didn't write it down. Crap, my mind goes blank.
And I was going to say too, I also have a group on Facebook by the same name of my podcast, which is Women's Pelvis Wellness.
Oh, perfect.
So they can request to join that. If you do request, please answer the questions. They're there for a reation.
Yes.
If you don't answer the questions, I won't approve you.
Okay.
Because I want to know how to best help you.
Right.
Also, the other thing I did want to mention is there are a lot of women who struggle every single year with like excruciatingly painful sex. Wow. That's not normal. You need to get it checked out. There is something called vaginismus. And I honestly did not know the term until I interviewed someone for my podcast. I knew of the condition. I just didn't know what the term was. It's vaginismus. And that is when the muscles of your vagina, and sometimes it can be extreme and be like the cervix and the pelvic floor, just like involuntarily contract at the thought of any penetration.
Ooh.
So, I mean, these women can't use tampons, nothing. And there also is a thing called secondary vaginismus. So it can be normal, and then perhaps after some type of trauma,
Right.
like a really traumatic birth, episiotomy sometimes.
Wow.
There is help for this, there is. And after I shared this, I don't know how many times a woman has come to me and said, my mom had this. I know it. My grandma had this. I know it. They just told me how horrible it was and how painful it was. There is help. Honestly, this condition can be healed in like a week physically.
Oh my gosh.
That emotional piece, it takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
But if you have like incredibly painful, if you can't have sex, or if it's terribly, terribly painful, please find someone who will, listen to you, look up vaginismus, and see if maybe that is something that you have to check out.
And I want to type in here real quick. What's the name of your podcast? I want to make sure I get it right on here.
Women's Pelvis Wellness.
Pelvis Wellness. I like the name of that. Well,
yep. And it's launched every Wednesday.
On Wednesdays.
So all of those W's are on purpose.
I like that. On Wednesday. Perfect. So I'm going to put that in the comments as well so that people can find you. This has been great. I think a lot of women are going to benefit. I hope they get on into the 20-minute, 30-minute discovery call with you, and, check out the podcast, because you're doing great things, and, you're helping so many women. And I think we definitely need more people like you to help, educate all of us.
Oh, the podcast is also on YouTube, and I'm so excited because I figured out how to upload my videos to YouTube.
Awesome. That's great. I love
audio and video. Yeah.
Good. And I love that, because that's what I like, seeing people. Yeah. Podcasts are great. And I do like listening to podcasts, especially if I'm driving, but I usually want to see the person.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just connect better. So that's awesome. So I pull this, it'll go on YouTube. And also I'm going to start uploading to Rumble. It's another alternative YouTube. So, and then I pull the audio, it goes on all the general podcast players. So you'll find that. And then I'll tag you when I get that uploaded. So, thank you so much for joining me this morning, Amy.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So again, please visit Amy's website that I've got on the screen. Otherwise, I'll put the link in the description. And have a great day. We'll see everybody here same time next Monday morning. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.